So I see a transpersonal knower basically as someone who has access to a form of knowing that is beyond oneself. And having known you as your student and having worked with you on my first feature film, Cryptic Reflections, I would describe you as a transpersonal knower. Would you agree with that description?
Mm. Well, because I come from a relatively traditional Sufi background, it would be a kind of spiritual arrogance to claim anything.
Okay. That's fair enough. Would you please tell us about a transpersonal experience or transpersonal experiences that had a tremendous influence on you that basically led you to the path you are on right now?
One of the big transpersonal experiences for me was actually a drug experience. But when I was younger, I was about 20, 21, and I did LSD. And for many people of our generation, often that particular drug had a very strong impact because it created a kind of synesthesia of the senses. Mm-hmm. And you became very aware of the fact that your normal perception was rather limited. And it opened up a sort of different view. I was never the type to get hooked on a particular drug. I only took it twice. But that particular experience was had a big impact on me because I realized how limited my perception had been. And I found that this was a way. I was very much interested in spirituality at the time, and in the descriptions of spiritual experiences, I found great similarity to what I experienced in the LSD trip. But then I realized that it had to be done more. You had to do work to do that, and so I became much more interested in spiritual practice.
What about a transpersonal experience that is not related to drugs? Maybe something Sufi related.
Yeah, the thing is that there are no single events there. I mean, basically, Sufi practice, especially when you hang out with your master, involves a certain amount of discipline. But within that discipline, you can have quite a number of very interesting experiences. So if you have to get up very early in the morning and stay up, you get lack of sleep, you're fasting. And after a while, you get into states that are very nice, sometimes disturbing, but on the whole, yeah, I mean, there are many countless ones over the years. And they, to some extent, make you familiar with, it's as Jack Kornfield has a famous book called After the Ecstasy, the Laundry, right? So you can get ecstatic moments in a Sufi gathering. You can get ecstatic moments with your master where you're just sitting and observing the sea. You can get these ecstatic moments, and at the same time, you then have to go back to your daily life and your daily responsibilities. And in a sense,
you have to integrate them.
You have to integrate them, and to some extent, the Sufi tradition, at least the traditional Sufi tradition, helps you to do that. They say, okay, that's very nice, you had a nice experience, now let's get back to the business of living.
You said something very interesting. You said that you didn't choose your master, you were guided. So I'm very curious how you knew that you were guided. This is sort of like the kind of knowing I'm interested in.
There's a saying in Tasawwuf, in Sufism, which says, "Talabana wajadana." Yani, if I ask for it, it will come, right? One of the things I learned from my years of study in the esoteric bookshop was that you have to have a true desire for something, and then it will happen. So I'll tell you a short story if you have time.
Yes, please.
I was working in the esoteric bookshop for free. So in order to support myself, I was working as an ambulance driver and as a taxi driver at night.
Wow.
And so towards the end of my time, I had been working 2 years in the bookshop. The owner of the bookshop invited a German who had spent the last 50 years in Sri Lanka as a Swami. Mm-hmm. And he came to Munich, and I met him, and we got on very well. He was a typical Swami, white beard, long white hair, robes, etc. And I had met a lot of sort of super gurus in my esoteric thing experience, and I was looking for somebody kind of real. And this guy looked real. So I asked him if I could visit in Sri Lanka, and he said yes, of course. And he left and returned back to Sri Lanka. So I had this very strong desire that I needed to be with this guy. So about a week later, somebody left 20,000 German marks in my taxi.
Whoa.
And so I gave it to the police, and about 2 days later, I get a phone call from the police saying, well, the guy came and picked up his money, but according to German law, you get a finder's fee of 15%.
Wow.
So I got the money, I took the money, and with that money, I went to Sri Lanka. I stayed 8 or 9 months in Sri Lanka, and the man I stayed with, the Swami Gauribala, he told me quite early on, he said, look, I can't be your teacher. We can be friends, but I can't really teach you. So the Swami said, you know, he himself spoke about 7 languages, Sanskrit, Pali, French, German, and he said to me, you know, the one language I never learned was Arabic. Go to the Middle East. Maybe you'll find somebody there. So I said, okay. So I returned to Germany, and Germany had become very tasteless after I spent 9 months in an ashram. And so my friend was living in Beirut at that time, my best friend. So I said, okay, I'll go to Beirut. The only thing was is that the Civil War was on. I went to Beirut, and I got a job at A&B because there were no foreigners in town, everybody left. And about a month later, I get a telex from one of the owners of the bookshop. And I had told him, I said, if you ever hear of a real spiritual master, inform me. So he wrote me a telex, and he said, go visit this person in Islam in Damascus.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a taxi from Beirut to Damascus. I spoke no Arabic. I arrived in Damascus, I get out of the taxi, and I get a city taxi. It was a sort of international taxi, and then I get out to get a city taxi.
Okay.
I stop the driver, and I show him this telex. Now, if you know anything about Damascus, most people in Damascus don't speak English. I showed him the telex. He said, oh yeah, get in. And he takes me to a place which even now, if you ask a Damascene where it is, they won't be able to tell you. It's in Jebel Qassim, very hidden. It turns out that the taxi driver is a disciple of the guy I'm going to.
No way.
Wow. So I entered the mosque where the man was, and as soon as I saw him, I connected, and I knew that this was the guy I'd been looking for. I had no idea. But, yeah. And so the first thing he says to me, he says, we've been waiting for you.
Wow. And this is what Jung called the synchronicities, basically.
Yeah.
Sort of they seem like random coincidences, but they're more than that. They're sort of like signs that lead you somewhere on your path, right?
Yeah.
This is a wonderful story.
But the demand has to be true. In other words, if it's coming from the ego, it won't happen.
Mm-hmm. So where does it come from? And if not from the ego?
It comes from a deeper place. And when you have that kind of a feeling, you immediately know that it's the right thing. It doesn't come via the intellectual thought.
Would you say it's more intuitive then?
Yeah, it's definitely an intuition. I mean, it's the same thing with my wife. I met my wife when I went to Beirut. Within a month of arriving in Beirut, I met my wife. My friend was professor of art history at AUB. And he said, we'll go out to the disco. So I said, okay. So they said, we need somebody as a partner for you. So one of his architecture students, he said, we'll invite her. So when she got in the car, when we picked her up, I knew immediately that I was going to marry her. So I proposed to her on the disco floor that night.
Wow.
And she said, you're out of your mind. You don't know me. I said, don't ask me, but I know that you're going to marry me.
Yeah. I proposed to Connie 2 months after dating, which is also soon. But from the beginning, I knew that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her.
Uh,
So there is something to that, right?